finishing is the end of the line of the process. And basically it starts obviously with the sort of a design that Barry and maybe art department have come up with, and then it gets put through to sculpture and then so made from a 2D into a 3D object. And then it gets through moulding, silicon, and then finally it comes up to us. And we kind of collaboratively will all discuss how the kind of the finish of the product needs to be, how they want it to be painted, and what material it's going to be used. And from there we roll with that. To be an art finishing supervisor basically just involves working alongside Barry and Sarah, making sure we often have quite a big team of people up here, especially on projects like Game of Thrones, just making sure everyone here knows what they've got to do and their time frames. Everyone here is employed because they know what they're doing, so I don't necessarily have to teach or tell people how to do their jobs. It's more just the organisation of it, which on a project like Game of Thrones is so big that you always need to have someone doing the number crunching and making sure we all meet our deadlines. I had quite an unconventional start to being in this industry. I always came from a creative background, studied art at school, and then I went to London College of Fashion to do an art foundation without really knowing what I wanted to do. And then through that found prosthetic makeup and did a 2-year FDA course at London College of Fashion. Absolutely loved it. And then I went on to do another course in Los Angeles at Makeup Designery and was taught by a guy called Mark Shostrom, who I loved his work, so that was really cool to get to work with him. One of the first projects that he worked on was Evil Dead 2 for practical effects. It's really showcases what we do in such a brilliant way. Kind of does a lot of old school techniques. He's very Dick Smith led, and it's brilliant. So on the back of my course in Los Angeles, meeting Mark Shostrom, he got in touch with Nick Dubman and put my name forward to possibly go for an interview for the Deathly Hallows, which at the time I couldn't even believe that was, I sort of entertained it like, oh yeah, that would be nice. And then sure enough, when I got back to London, I had an interview set up with Nick, met him, and I got to work on the project. It was about 9 months later, started as one of their trainees. As a trainee, I got kind of gravitated towards the art finishing side of things, which was really lucky for me, being a painter. And we got to work on some characters, Greyback being probably one of the biggest characters that we all got to work on that, and the goblin sequence, which I think there was 60 goblins, all painted, hair punched, and applied. So that was a really fantastic opportunity. I was a trainee on that for about 18 months. Got to meet a lot of makeup designers, Barry being one of them. And I worked with Barry on a few other projects along the line, The Iron Lady, 47 Ronin, and we always just worked as colleagues, but obviously I always looked up to his work. It was always fantastic. And then Game of Thrones came, and him and Sarah got that. And then I started working for them, so 3.5 years ago. Working on Game of Thrones is fantastic because it's such a diverse project. We get to do all sorts of things like, blood gags and bodies, as well as doing fantasy creatures and aging makeups. And I've got to work on lots of different things over the 3 or 4 seasons that we've done now. Probably for me, the biggest one was the Children of the Forest. We did a character called Leaf, and for silicon and painters, that was a massive task for us to do. It was a full-body silicone prosthetic, and each day it's a brand new piece put on. A lot of hair work, and actually I got to go all the way with it and apply it. There was 5 of us applying that makeup, and that was fantastic to get to see it through all the way. A full-body makeup, as like the Children of the Forest, that was an 8-hour application. So it was 8 hours before camera even turned over, and then we would do probably another 8 hours on top of that. And then the D-rig was another hour. So the days our days were very long when we were doing those makeups. But it looked so fantastic that you kind of stand back afterwards and you think, oh, it is worth it. Because I only got into the industry sort of 10 years ago, silicone was already, widely being used. When we were at college, we were kind of taught foam latex. So it was actually really, really amazing to break out of college and start using these, phantom materials that we'd only kind of heard of and never got to play with. silicon is definitely my favourite material to paint. It's got a beautiful opacity to it. It kind of really moves and looks a lot like skin. So I guess to a degree, our job is made a lot easier because of the material. Painting foam is equally just as fun, but it's a completely different technique. You have to kind of put in the translucency, whereas with silicon, it's already there. So you're building up the opacity. They're polar opposites. I love working with both, but for prosthetics, I definitely think that silicon just moves a lot nicer. I think do your research. You know, there's so many colleges out there now. It's kind of making sure that you choose the right one. I was so lucky that when I did my course, I was taught by a practicing makeup artist, and I think that's really important. So make sure you do your research with regards to which college you choose. I think starting out, for me, it was kind of good to not have any expectations and to kind of go into the industry completely blind and just absorb it and learn on the job. Everything that you're taught at college is really important to begin with, but ultimately it's what you learn on the job that sort of carries you through. And ultimately it comes down to being creative. It comes down to practice. You know, you can't practice enough. You know, painting from home. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything to do with prosthetics, life drawings, anything like that. Just to keep you practice with art. It's just experience and years and just learning from other people. There's no right or wrong way basically in what we do, and it's forever developing, and it's kind of just watching other people and seeing how they work. You never ever stop learning, and I think with that, it keeps the job super exciting all the time. I don't feel like ever in my career I'll ever be, you know, top, know everything. It's forever evolving. You know, never give up. It's a really tough industry to get into, but hard work and persistence definitely pays off. And, you know, going to these trade shows like IMATS and UMA that they host in London and in fact all over the world, you get to meet everyone at those shows, and just going out there with your portfolio and just showing people what you can do. And, you know, you should be lucky enough to get a job in the industry if you keep persistent. What I love the most about my job is probably kind of seeing things through from the workshop all the way through onto set. It's also the team aspect. I love working as part of a team, especially, you know, collaboratively from design to sculpture, the whole process. It's really exciting to be a part of that. And when we get to travel as well and we all go out together, the camaraderie that comes with it is just brilliant. We all get on so well. Working on a film like Harry Potter, it was sort of pinch me, you know, couldn't believe I've been so lucky. And watching the films back, you know, with my mum and dad, it's, you know, a real proud moment for them as well. So yeah, I consider myself really, really lucky.